Okay. Let's look at this hand real quick. So this is so I live in Texas, and in Texas, if you play live, you're going to have to deal with bomb pots, but they're much more complex here. They are double board bomb pots. They're PLO double board bomb pots. So this is not a PLO double board bomb pot. I don't think you can play those anyplace online, but you could definitely play PLO double board bomb pots live. And the complexity is intense. So to that end, I've been practicing bomb pots and PLO on ACR a little bit. Because on ACR, at least you can have PLO bomb pots. Single board. This is I think this is a bomb pot on ACR with no limit home. So here we are. We each putting 5 bigs into the middle. We grow this pot to a particular size. 30 bigs. And then everybody's going to see the flop. It's a bomb pot. And we flop the Nutter Butters. So this is an interesting hand because it so we've obviously been doing well. Unfortunately, we can't see what this guy's stack is. There are some other small stacks. There's all kinds of stacks right here. So it's check to us. So there's this concept that Bart Hansen talks about in bomb pots of like push pull. Now this I think push pull um applies. Excuse me. Hold on one second, guys. I think this push pull concept applies more to double board bomb pots, where you have a split pot theory going on, and you want to either take the pot or you want to keep people in if you have high equity on both floors. But here, it doesn't apply as much. But certainly, if there is push means push people out, take the pot early. Pull means keep people in. I would imagine on this rainbow board we have the nuts. We have some pull going on. I don't know what I do here. What do I do? So I check. Sometimes hard to understand what's happening on this. Check, check. So I checked around, and now we get this innocuous brickish river. I'm gonna have to bet now, I think. Check, check. I bet. I bet small. Trying to keep people in. So Dean wanted to go in a different direction here. He wanted to. Mike's like, what the hell is this thing? Pot it. People will fold an ace. Get you. Yeah, okay. Got a good point. I mean, you can go both ways, I think, yeah. I think you valid that people maybe not fold ace. Mike, we're looking at a bomb pot. So I've been practicing bomb pots on ACR.
Oh, okay. I'm like, holy shnikey. Okay.
So I've been practicing bomb pots on ACR because every half hour here, or some places more often, you do a double board bomb pot. So I bet small. I got a call. We love that. Our SPR is crazy though, right? Our SPR is like 3. Go to a river, not the greatest river. So we choose this size. There you go. So yeah, just crazy double bomb pot action. I don't really know what to do in these. They're like chaos. I mean, there's no like when we were looking at our trainer. I mean, for some hands we knew what you're supposed to do. No idea what you're supposed to do. This is all poker instinct when you're playing these. All right. Anybody else got a hand?
I've got them lined up. So
Do it, man. Let's look at
until,
some. Let's
until,
look at
until
some
anybody
mic
else
hands.
wants to jump in, I can give you some hands.
I got a question more than a hand with reviewing. It's just made me think. It feels like it should be a simple answer, um,
Sure, shoot it. Go.
but
Do it.
yeah. So it's in essence it's an ace king the ace scenario pre-flop shove, right? That's the essence of it. And it sounds really boring, but it's a nine-handed table. It was, let's try and keep it simple. It was under the gun +2 against a low jack, right?
Mhm.
So he hero opens with ace king offsuit, standard bet of three big blinds. Uh, then gets three bet by the low jack or 10 big blinds. The low jack is a little bit loose, not massively with range wise, and plays broken stack, but like it's an odd broken stack, and this is what confused me. So they join the table full, so like 100 big blinds, but they don't have auto top up, but they're irregular. So each time you run into them and they start on the table, they'll join full stack and they'll never autofill when they'll let it chip down. Do you get me? A
Yeah,
little bit odd. So anyway,
agreed.
they three bet, and I didn't actually notice. I don't know if I should say this now or later, but they three bet, um, and their three bet range percentage is really low, right? Anyway, it comes back around, folds back around to the initial raiser, the hero, ace king offsuit, out of position, obviously under the gun +2, and it's a mixture of four bet and shove, right? But against this player type, right, I decided to go for the 4-bit shove because they're a little bit of a wider range, a little bit looser, broken stack player, a bit softer. I thought they would call with, potentially a wider range. However, obviously based on their 3-bet information of basically being rarely 3-betting, that then kind of indicates their hand strength is a lot higher. So my kind of question is, if you know someone has a tighter range, in their 3-bet pots only, their 3-bet range, does that mean then you should lean towards more of a 4-bet with the chance of if they then 5-bet you, you fold because you're like, okay, they probably have it, but do you ever fold the ace king? Like it's offsuit. It feels like you might do out of position, even though if you reduce their range to say like queens plus and then ace king suited off suited aces, right, and kings, like you remove all the jacks, you remove all the queens, you remove the tens, you remove the king queen suited, etc.
Um,
It
I don't think you fold free.
No, but do you more lean towards a 4-bet then? And again, I don't know what they would do because it's high, like they rarely 3-bet, so you don't really have much information on if they're likely going to call or shove. But because if they shove, you're likely calling again. But if they only call and the board doesn't go in your favor and they're still playing a bit aggressive on the flop turn, let's say you get to it, then you could maybe walk away from the ace queen. And I know you don't want to get in the mindset of how do I fold a hand. I'm trying to think of how I adapt my play to a player like this. There's a chance you would lose less, even
What
though
kind of free
most
bet
of the time.
frequency are we talking about? Are we talking
Like,
about?
so again, it's not a huge hand sample size, 300 hands, and they have a 2% 3-bet frequency, so really low, right? But I
Yeah.
did not notice that until it was too late.
So what are your adjustments? So, I mean, I think your adjustment
Yeah, so if they never 3-bet, their 5-bet range is crazy. And that's what I thought, right? So is this one of the rare circumstances you actually fold ace, king, offsuit, right? Suited, you would still go out with it, I guess. But offsuit, do you
if
potentially
they're
fold it
5-bet, it's a
pre-flop?
shove, I assume.
Yeah, and again, this is where we're hindsight because we don't know how this player act because they're rarely 3-bet. I didn't 4-bet them. I shoved and they just called, right? But if I was to 4-bet, would that have been the better play? In simplifying, without going, I guess, down too much of a theory rabbit hole, the simple of is it better against someone who has a tighter range in their 3-bet and potential 4-5 bet range to then 4-bet rather than shove?
I think 4-betting in that situation is ideal, and then, if they shove and they have a broken stack, I think it's important to be aware of what pot odds you're being offered.
Yeah, because their broken stack was, let's say, 80 big blinds. Yeah, 80 big blinds. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I mean, it's nice blocking aces and kings, but I mean, I think the fold to their shove with ace king, I think that's an acceptable adjustment against such an extremely low frequency, 3-bet frequency. I mean,
So
so essentially he's
Dean's
saying he
just
has
said
got queens
there,
plus ace king.
yeah, Queens plus, I would say, is the fair one. And then it's obviously ace kings, right?
Yeah.
With that such low percent, maybe ace queen would squeeze in, but I would say it's likely, ace, yeah,
Well, do
a
you have
stretch
the
ace
hand
queen.
in your hand history?
No, this is just noted down
Okay.
just from memory.
I would
Noted down, sorry.
I would kind of estimate what your I would estimate what your pot odds were when he shoved with his broken stack,
As I
right?
say, his broken stack is 80 big blinds. We raised 10 big blinds. We're leaving him 70 behind, right? And I've only
Yeah.
invested 3 blinds. So, and I was thinking with Dean, and I don't know why it didn't cross my mind. Do I ever just, it doesn't feel right, but against a person who has such a low 3-bet frequency, is just calling out of position the correct way.
I would be interested to compare your pot odds you're being offered and then look at it like in Ecolab. I would put it in some
I
kind of
think
tool, an equity calculator, right?
I
And then
put it into an equity calculator, but not giving me just ace king. I gave my standard what would it be, shove slash 4-bet range of ace queen offsuit plus, king suited, ace jack suited plus, and then kings plus. And it was against a tight range of ace king offsuit, ace king suited, and queens plus. Like my equity was 40%, their equity was 60%. So
yeah, I'd want to know what it was against ace king and then see where you stand against what you think their type range is here.
again, it's a bit of an odd one, and it feels like I'm maybe overthinking it because it's literally just at the end of the day, ace king against aces. But I was what I'm fixating on is against someone who has such a tight range, what is my adjustment with ace king? Am I meant to 4-bet more rather than shove? Am I meant to what? I didn't even think about
I
what
mean,
Mike
yeah, I mean,
said,
so
just
I
call.
think really the question becomes how extreme an adjustment to my pre-flop strategy can I make when they have a 2% 3-bet range?
Yeah. That's basically the simple question, right? Is what is the adjustment you make against someone who has such a low 3-bet range when
Yeah,
you still
and
have
so
quite a long hand, a good
yeah,
hand?
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, I'm hesitant to tell you to flat it out of position and play ace king out of position. I don't know if that's the best choice. It's a tough one. I have a clear answer for you. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I would be more comfortable flatting ace king suited out of position. Generally, we just don't want to play ace king suited out of position.
You just don't want to play out. No, I know you have to, but it's just yeah,
Yeah.
it's odd, right?
So it becomes a tough one.
I mean, yeah, I think it just doesn't come down to you just have to make assuming they have queen in their range, and then I think it's profitable, right?
Yeah.
Once you take that out, then it's a no-go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think uh Mike has a good point. I would pair your pot
So when
odds
you
you're
say
being
a
offered
no-go
and then
then,
look at it in like Ecolab or something.
No-go meaning you consider just folding pre.
as in fold into the 3-bet pre if they're that tight, you wouldn't
Yeah,
even 4-bet, you would just potentially go, okay, they're so tight, you would just fold
I
ace
think
king.
so.
Fair. It did cross my mind. Like, if they had no 3-bet and you had that many hands, I'd be like, okay, yeah, right. You know, this is potentially just kings or aces and you're not in a great situation. But yeah, I don't know. It just made me think, as I said, I don't care that I lost. It was just, I'm fixated on, I didn't know what the adjustment was there, the best adjustment. Cool. Sorry for going a little bit
No,
down
that's all right.
a rabbit of
Good,
such a
interesting
simple
spot.
one. Yeah.
And isn't the and you said this was live?
No, this was online.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I think a lot of like live players will be proponents of it. Like there's just never any three betting except for aces and kings, right? That this, and especially if you're talking about your early position versus another early position, it's like nobody ever three bets anything ever, hardly. And so
Yeah. Yeah, that's true as well. With them having such a low 3-bet and it be early against early as well. That's another consideration I didn't really think about too much. Which even tightens their range even more. Yeah, true. I think the shove was wrong there. I don't know if I would have folded it straight, I'll be honest. I think maybe for yeah. Even if I 4-bet it and they shove, I would have probably still called it. But
I don't think
yeah,
it's
it's
ever
something
bad
to
to
think
shove
about.
ace king against a broken stack out of position. I mean,
Yeah.
the adjustment you're talking about makes sense. Like,
Yeah. No, I think just because their 3-bet was so low with a reasonable hand size, that's why I've been thinking about it more than any other, more than I would normally. Cool, fine. Yeah, cheers for all that. Like all your input.
no worries, man.
This is your hand now, then, Larry. You got up on the screen, is it?
This is Mike's game.
oh, yep,
Mike's
yep. Forgot I was sharing. Okay. Yeah, and I just pulled a recent session and just had a bunch of marked hands. I don't even know what I mean, I probably remember them, but they're just kind of lined up with whether they were V-pipped and that sort of thing. So anyway, here we go. This looks like it was early on in the table. So it's a limped pot. We get here. Top pair on a monotone board donked by the small blind. Like these are just always kind of weird for me. Probably, yeah, probably just call. Is that bad? You're not folding, right?
This is what I would do.
Yeah. Turn two pair on a flush completer. They continue.
For a small size.
Small size. Feel like I have to call now because now we can actually have redraws, assuming we're beat.
Agreed.
In another small size.
Very weird size.
Yeah, it's
I
very
mean,
weird. Very weird.
Now,
Call.
I
yeah.
did call. I think I don't know if I won. No, okay. So I called because I've seen like population here, like on four flush type boards, or even like where the board is flush, like total flush. I've seen a lot of bluffing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, so I don't know, just kind of like in past history, just having seen a lot of like bluffs, and they're always like half size, like half pot type sizes. So I called. I didn't know if you guys hate this or not, but
I think you're good.
Yeah, I think you
I
should
mean,
call that.
it's yeah, your pot odds are being offered are really good.
okay, yeah, all right, all right. So it was kind of boring, but again, stuck out as a yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, it's got to be that's a lot of value too.
I think because it's multi-way limped, right? Like them not just limping in blind v blind, and they've bet all three. it gives them more of a chance, and their small bets that they even might. I'm surprised he had the king suited, right? But
Yeah.
I think it gives them a reasonable chance that they do have some form of diamond, but more lenient toward the low one. I think the initial call on the flop is fine, right? Because you have top pair and they could be just taking stab for it. I think even the call on the turn, when you then your hand turns into a 2-pair, it's a reasonable call again because it's a small bet. Then doing a final bet on the river, I think just leans towards they have some form of diamond just because it started with 3 people, right? You know?
Yeah.
And that's my only thing. I don't hate the call, but I just feel like, yeah, any diamond beats you there, right? And I think it's reasonable for them to have a diamond here, one singular diamond.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I
so
was
and it's
torn.
4 blinds, right? For a chance to win. Well, once you put your 4 blinds in 21, but let's say 17. So it's not an unreasonable call, but the question is,
Yeah.
is it
Okay.
worth it in the situation based on the information they've given you? And could you save that 4 blinds for another time? But
Okay, another one that I'm not sure what the ultimate result was. So we raised early position. King seven's a kind of a mix, and this combo I will do it with. We get that flop, which I will check range once I get here to the button flat. And they check behind, okay. We get top pair. All right, so first, I guess, real decision point.
what was your thoughts? You don't have to show. I'm just curious. What were your thoughts
So as I'm sitting
before?
here looking at this now, I would imagine I should check a lot, I think, especially with this 7x. Like if I had ace king, king queen, we should be betting. But now maybe we starting to get down into, continue to check, kind of protecting checking ranges kind of thing. I don't know that I do. Okay, I do check. They check behind. So that's good, I think. And we get this card. Now I think we just check, I think. And they check. Okay, so that was kind of boring. They had that.
I thought.
So we can kind of start figuring this villain.
Yeah, nets, the 33% no pre-flop raises and 5-4 on the button. Gosh, that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was a kind of a boring one. Fives here in hijack is a little early for me, so I'm kind of thinking there's probably a player back here that I've maybe thought about. That there's maybe a weak player that maybe they're all kind of weak or something. But I typically fives are not a raise in the hijack for me. I guess it just depends on my mood too, but flat from the big blind. Okay, nice. Probably always c betting this bottom set. So I do B50. Any objections? Smaller, larger? Probably fine.
Yeah, I think you're
Okay. Yeah.
kind
Yeah, I
of choose
think
your own adventure. You have such a good hand.
Yeah. Okay, we turn the 4, they check. I'm just going to continue, I think. I do, yeah. So B75 in the call. All right,
Oh.
and they check. Any thoughts on sizing here? If I were to think out loud, I don't remember the results of this, but I feel like I feel like I've got to go for value, and I'm never going less than half pot.
so. One thing I'm trying to implement with my bet sizing shoes on the thing is betting for what you think they have range wise. So, like,
Mhm.
for example, if you're betting based on them having, let's say, a queen, right? Then what size would you choose? If you think it's going to be a pair, they've got a pocket pair between queen and 7, so 8s plus. Does that fall into the same bet size as queens?
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
if we
I don't know. That's the way I'm trying to approach betting at the minute. I'm not sure if you agree with that or not, but it seems like that's how a lot of players think, and it seems like it might be the most potential profitable way, moving slightly from solver standardization. But it's a question, does it become exploitable? So here, right, it's a question of what if I'm thinking along the logic of what this villain's calling with, based on them just calling your bet. So are they calling chasing a draw, or are they calling with a pair or pockets, and then trying to choose a size on that? So yeah, I think 75 is the minimum for me, personally, based on it. But you could also argue, were they playing safe because they were worried about the draw? So do you want to even go higher? So it's what is it you always say, or maybe not even you, but not getting more calls small, but getting less large calls as well.
Yeah, magnitude trumps frequency. Is that the phrase that
Yes,
you were thinking of?
yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. So yeah, it's tough. It depends on the player type, right? You haven't got a huge amount on them. I don't know. I don't think I would go less than 75 if I was sticking to what I would class as standard
Me too.
solver. But yeah, I would probably you got you got bluffs too to cover a big bet. Yeah, that's true. And it
Yeah.
covers your bluffs as well. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
even
yeah.
going a bit hot here, 120, 130 is reasonable as well. 75 to 130, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I like your thoughts. And if we do if we do some hand reading, they're going to get here with all their queen X. They could have queen 7 suited. I suppose they could have queen 5 suited. Don't have too much info on this player other than he's been kind of tight in 30 hands. So I suppose, we could include some 2 pair. There's not a whole lot. They could have 7-5. They haven't raised yet, however, which would probably, indicate, we discount some of those 2 pairs and set of sevens, and certainly not queens. We're not putting those in their hand. So queen X, flush diamond draws, ace
Ace
3 of
X.
diamonds is the only real kind of tough one. 6-8 of diamonds. I suppose any 6-8 got there. The turn they did not raise. So our equity, I think, is really pretty high. I would imagine 80% at least. What did I choose? I chose like it'd be 75, maybe a little higher, maybe a little more. And they folded. Let's see what they folded. They had 7x.
The middle
So they
pair.
got there with 7x.
Yeah, I think with our bet size, we're just targeting the higher range, right? And we understand that we're going to fold out this lower end of the board, just trying to get paid by the higher. We're not, with every bet, we're never going to get hit every person's, I guess, range. So it's just, what do we feel like is going to be the profitable most commonly here? And I think, yeah, trying to hit those high queens, those 2 pairs. You could even, as someone mentioned, I think someone who turned trips on the lower, but they would have probably raised if they had hit the trips on a 4 or a 2. Yeah, I think I don't think you lost value here.
All right, good. That was 3 for me. I'll leave it up for someone else. I've got more, so you let me know.
Anybody else?
I have one, but so do I share the screen here? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a green button at the bottom. I'll share.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see where I have it. Is this one? I think this hand is. I really want to hear. The bam. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Okay.
Right. So I really want to have everybody's opinion about this hand. This hand is kind of haunted me the last days.
Sure. You can't see the hand anymore though. Just
Can you see it or not?
No, it's
We
just
see your holder
your
manager, but we don't see your hand, the
All
replay.
right. Can you see it now?
Yep.
All right. I have 2 screens. Okay. So, yeah. Small blind. I just call here. And we get this flop. he bets, and I think it's a good idea to call here because I have a open ender, and then the ace comes here, and now I start to think that when he bets 6 here, I started to think that I will bluff the river if there will be a heart or maybe an 8 or a 7. That's my thought here. So, in my opinion, this is the card I need here. So, and he checks here. So I'm putting in the bluff here, so to speak. So, so I overbet, and of course he calls. Any idea what do you think he has? Do you have a guess?
He's gonna have some flush traps, but I would say this is probably 2 pair plus.
I don't think he needs 2 pair plus.
No, I agree. He doesn't blind versus blind. But I think probably this is 2 pair plus with most people, but you're right.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
doesn't
right.
need it, blind versus blind.
He calls, and ta-da!
Quite a hero.
So, yeah. I don't know. Anyone just say something about this play? Is it bad or?
I mean, in theory, we get to call pretty wide. Blind versus blind. Cause it
Yeah.
is one of the more bluffed configurations in poker, the single raise
Yeah.
pot blind versus blind, because the ranges are the widest.
Yeah.
I think your bluff is fine. I think his call is fine. I think you both played it fine.
Yeah.
I
Maybe I should.
think
Sorry.
I was going to say, I think it depends on how much information you have on this player. I like it as Larry said, in theory, it seems like a fine, and logically, it seems like fine. But I think it does depend on the player you're against, right? And what you know about them. If they are someone who, I guess, is lighter on calling, then you probably don't bluff. Or you know, if they are tighter, then I think a bluff is more reasonable. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there is got to be player adjustment. In theory, it seems fine. I don't know if you put it into a solver and see what the solver said, but I think, yeah, it's playing the player.
I'm not all wrong according to the result, but I think there was a good. I would take with me the thing when you were dealing with the blinds. Someone told that the blinds against blinds, it's kind of more tricky if it was sitting on a button or on any. Maybe I should think about that and try to cut down the bluffing blind against blind. That could be a take from this, maybe.
I would bluff more blind versus blind. I
Yeah.
don't think people are going to hero enough.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
trying to decide if the overbet was necessary. In other words, could we accomplish the same sort of the same sort of result that we want with, like a B75 as opposed to an overbet? Like, so when we
Yeah.
overbet, we're hoping like something like ace 3 will fold, which I don't, I think solver wise, I don't think it would, but maybe population might overfold. Maybe they overcall. Maybe they call too much. But if we do, an overbet, we certainly are looking for a jack to fold.
Yes.
If we have queen high, we theoretically probably might even win at showdown sometimes if
Yes.
we just check behind. So maybe a smaller bet might be more EV in terms of getting king high to fold. Getting whatever king X they might have to fold. But like a B75, maybe jack start considering folding there. Certainly ace is not folding.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I will maybe bet smaller next time, because my idea was actually to get an ace to fold. That was because bet pretty big with the ace gutter on the turn, but at the same time, you never know. Maybe I should have more information about him also. I didn't have too much, so to speak. Yeah, anyway, thanks for the input here. I will stop sharing now.
Hey, what do you guys think about raising the flop? It's an
So-
open ender with an over. Is it too good to raise? We just want to call?
Well, I don't know. I was wondering that, and it did cross my mind, but they didn't. So you don't obviously have any form of backdoor flush, which to me lent that there's a reasonable chance that the raise is more beneficial, right? Because it's a lower
Yes.
equity open-ended straight draw. So it did cross my mind, right? And then you could decide, obviously, if you wanted to continue that bluff based on them calling. But
Yes.
yeah.
But it should be if I would bet out here, it should be a big bet like 75 or
So then no, they bet originally, don't they? So you would be
Yeah.
raising them, right?
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, raise. So I would like triple him or something like that, 6 blinds or something.
So something like 7-8 would be a better
I was gonna
check
say,
raise than
yeah.
Queen
Yeah.
10.
Seven.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant 7 or 8 blinds. I was going to say 7 or 8 blinds if you're going for the raise here.
Yeah.
Yeah, realistically, a raise here on a standard non-P blind. I guess I need to study more blinds thinking about it. As Larry would say, would probably be more of a split straight or a gut shot straight rather than an open-ended. But in my head, I don't think I hate the raise because it is just an open-ended raise, right? So you've only got, well, you've actually got your queen out as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you raise this, it wouldn't be terrible. And then to continue with the bluff if you don't hit, right?
Okay.
At least on the
Yeah.
turn as well. And then
Yeah,
if they call you again, you know,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I can't bluff the river. So you're investing potentially the same amount of chips, but just in a different part of the hand.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I will be the aggressor, so to speak, instead. Just betting
Yeah.
out. Yeah, hit him. Yes. All right. Interesting. Yeah.
But
Thanks,
again,
Tom.
like I don't think it was a terrible bluff, as everyone has
No.
said. It's just yeah, you've hit the player who doesn't want to let go of an ace, and I know that the hand, what's it called, the where you're playing is anonymous, so you only know this player for as long as you're sitting down with them, right?
Yeah.
But at least you know if in that similar situation, if you did bluff someone, they called you light, then you go for more value in the future. So that would be something to take for round. So say you ran into
Yeah.
this player again, 10 hands down the line, 20 hands down the line, you know, less chance that you can bluff them,
Yeah.
but more chance that they would maybe call you lighter for value, right? So you can get more value off them.
Yeah. All right. Yes. All right. Thank you. I will stop sharing now then. Bam.
All right, guys, I guess I have a hand. I will share. All right, you see my screen?
Yep.
Good hand playing. What is this? 2, 4, 6, 7-handed. We open. Get 3-bet in the cutoff.
A big 3
Actually,
bet.
this is small blind. So this is yet another bug from the replayer. So we actually are getting 3-bet the small blind here. Ignore where the button is. Ignore the button symbol.
Yeah, the global replayer. They still haven't fixed this bug.
It's only been decades. So we call in position with this combo. Get this flop. What are you guys doing here?
No, always checking.
Yeah, always checking back, right?
Yeah.
You do get this. Besides putting the B50 bet. What are you guys doing?
Any player dependent? You know anything?
No, don't know anything about this guy.
Yeah, I think you could go either way.
Yeah, I think if it's an unknown, no details at all, there's arguments for calling or folding, like equal is split, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah, because you're losing to an ace or a king at the minute, or someone who had tens,
So
because
we'd
they
have to
shouldn't
have
have
a
twos
player
in their
that
range.
is going to protect their checking range in the 3-bet, right?
Yeah,
And they're gonna, and they would be protecting their checking range by checking probably their best aces, like ace king, and then obviously flop boats they would check sometimes. Flop when they have ace ace. But I generally think a call here. I think generally the check on flop in population is not properly balanced. So I think they are somewhat kept when they check flop. They're not balanced. They don't have very top of range as much when they check flop. So I decide to call. Back to flush comes in, he checks. Can we value bet? That on the check that check line, can we value that?
I don't know. It feels like, right, that if they were betting with the equity flush draw, that you're setting yourself up for a check raise, right? So if you do value bet and then they raise you, are you folding?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would.
And
fold
so
the
if
check
you're
raise now.
value betting, what you value betting against the jacks? Someone who has a 10, like a king 10, or someone who was, because even people who are bluffing, say, let's just say a draw, they're unlikely going to call you. So there's no point value betting then. Is that correct?
I
So
think, yeah, I came to the same conclusion. I didn't really see a lot of value in value betting, but he did have one of the combos
jacks,
that would pay us. But
likely, yeah.
I think it's very thin to value bet this. I could see it more if the flush didn't come in. But when the backdoor flush comes in, runner flush actually. So
So if you're value betting targeting specifically, well, it would be jacks, right? Or a king 10 suited, which obviously wouldn't be clubs, right? Or
yeah,
even a queen 10, let's say. What size would you go for? Because obviously if you're going small and they go large as a bluff raise, and you then are folding, you're setting yourself up to that, right? If they do a small raise, do you call it, where they could also be trapping you? So it's tough. It feels like there's so little hands that you're targeting for value, and you
yeah, it's
open
a
up
very
the
thin
betting
range. Very
again.
thin.
That is putting yourself up, potentially getting bluffed off the pot, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. And
It's a
yeah, you're
very
just
thin range that you are value betting against, and the check raise here is so lethal because you have to strip them of you just you fold a check raise. But
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Dean. What side? If you are being so specific, you've got the read on this player, which is hard to hand. You should never just go solely hand, right? But if you are going solely hand, jacks or some form of 10, right? You know, and you're absolutely confident, what bet size do you do that they're not going to raise you, but they are likely going to call you? I don't think it's more than 33, right? And I think potentially going lower than 20, 25, that might induce them to bet. I think they might even raise, sorry, I think they might even raise a 33.
so I wouldn't bet less than half here. I would bet 60% or 75%.
That's 60.
Um the only thing I would bet 32. Well, I don't really use the less than 50% bet in position on river. Some people do, and it's fine. But generally I don't use that size.
Aren't you then potentially, what's it called, diluting, merging bets and ranges with that size? Because
Yeah, you've got a good point. This is a little mergy with this. But
if you're keeping it on
I
the lower side, you're also kind of you're betting slightly for value against the weaker hands, but you're also kind of mixing it in the bet size of you have the flush, right? And if they do bluff raise you, then you would obviously call up / jam with your nuts, right? Be it the oh well, here they would have a full house, but if you had the stronger, that you were inducing them to go over the top of you. So you're putting your low value in with your absolute netted hands, right? On a smaller size.
Mhm.
Where if you go slightly too big, you're kind of merging your hand in between the bluff and the large bet size for value, as well as them likely only calling you with better, i.e. kings and aces.
Yeah, you've got a good point. I mean, I just don't. There's a risk reward factor, and I think that the smaller bet does open you up for
It
more
does.
exploitative check raising.
Yeah.
This combo would be the one that would, I think, would be so susceptible to it. So yeah, I guess really what I do in the end is I check this.
I think
hand.
checking is the safest, right? But we're trying to work out what's giving you the most value long term. And it feels to me, and I don't know if that's me being nitty, but I think the checking is long term the best value because you're less likely going to get bluffed off and you're less likely going to, this person might even find the fold with a small bet without a jack of clubs, right? I'm not saying they should, but they might find the small bet fold without a jack of clubs. So if you've got players folding out as well, then your value bet becomes even less profitable, right? So yeah, I think profit wise, I think the check makes the most sense because of the risk of opening the action again or being called by better.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't know what everyone else agrees. I felt like I did a lot of talking then. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a weird spot. There is definitely, I mean, you can build a less than 50% value bet here, but I think it has to be well protected, right? I think you do have to have nuts in there.
Yeah.
King high flush or both.
Yeah.
But and people use it all the time. And it probably makes sense more against humans because there aren't enough check raises.
Peter Clark is a big proponent of not necessarily following the rule of bet at least, if you're going to reopen, make it bigger than 50%. He's a kind of a proponent towards bet your hand strength kind of thing
Yeah.
against players that aren't going to exploit you.
Yeah, but we don't have any information on this player, right? That's the thing. That's the key detail here is we have no information.
Yeah.
And if we don't have
So we're going
information,
population,
then
right?
we can maybe make some assumptions that,
Okay.
what's the typical player like. And yeah, it's certainly risky, but you're right. I mean, I'm all for just checking back on this hand too. But Peter Clark does make that argument that, hey, we don't have to, strictly follow, make it B60 if you're going to bet or bigger. Go ahead, make it B33 when your hand calls for it against players that aren't going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if you know that, well, you can't never know, but if you have a high probability that player 1792 doesn't have a check raise strat, then yeah, it makes sense to eke out some value against these jacks, for instance. So, all right. See you to that one. Anybody else with a hand?
Yeah,
Go for it.
I do, but I'd want to make sure everybody else can get in there. Continuing from that session here, King Queen on the button. Raise, call, multi-way. Here is something about this player in 14 hands. We've noticed this. He's been just 14
Quite
hands,
active.
but active in those 14 hands and has been aggressive, etc. But it's only 14, so take that for what it will. I don't know it. I think I may have seen a showdown that told me this is definitely like this is pretty accurate at this point. Like I think I saw a hand showdown where it was kind of a little bit ridiculous. So with that in mind,
Can I
we
just
go,
ask a quick question?
yeah,
Right. So obviously you're only three-handed at the minute, right?
yep.
So I'm assuming pretty much most of these hands were short-handed. So doesn't that mean their fee pip is going to be higher anyway?
Yeah, no, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into these numbers and I think that's why I made the cap or the clarification that if I remember right, I think I saw him show down a hand that was, very suspect. So I wouldn't normally put too much um, credence into these numbers with only 14 hands. It's starting to look fishy if I haven't seen anything, but I would not like rely on it. No, no doubt.
And you can't remember the showdown you saw just to give us more information by any chance,
I
can you? Or
I
roughly?
don't. Not specifically. One thing that this allows us to see is this shows us hands that he had. I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah, I
Um,
can see that.
but the only caveat to this is I'm not sure which of these hands I saw before the 14 hands, because this includes the whole session,
Yeah.
that those notes. So any of those could have happened after this hand. But I'm thinking I saw maybe a 6-5 off in here somewhere that he got aggressive with, etc.
So six
Um,
five off from the blinds.
yeah, but then also
Yeah.
post flop, like he showed, he
Yeah.
wound up showing it down. So I feel like I remember seeing he should never have gotten to that point with whatever hand
Yeah.
he had.
Fair. Okay.
And I think that's what plays into this hand as we go. So multi-way, top pair, king kicker, in position. I think we can kind of go both ways, but I typically will start betting my good hands in position versus most players, and I do with like a B33. And we get call. Oh, that's right. We get raised. That's right. Okay. Um, so I wind up calling, and we get rid of that guy. And he goes B66. And I think at this point I was, if I feel like I remember just basically saying, I'm just going to call him down from what I saw. So I wind up calling and we get that card there. He jams for pot. And yeah, this is, I remember, well, actually not, it's less than pot because I only have 55, but I wound up calling. But it was close, I think, because I typically get pretty tight to this kind of aggression versus pool, but I called specifically and made it pretty easy call to this player. And I'm wondering if you guys think it's still a call no matter what.
I missed the action, but
Yeah.
was there a check raise on flop
The
or on
flop.
turn?
Yep. Yeah, the flop went check raise. And then he went barrel barrel.
Oh, he's clamming sixes or twos, which are definitely in his range. His bluffs are around the hearts. 4-3 hearts, interesting.
Could be claiming a two pair as well, right? As the trips. I don't hate the call down. Like, and obviously if you had information off that they were a bit more aggressive with potentially drawing hands and draws missed, straights and flush. I don't hate the call down because they could be bluffing the river.
What's his, how many hands do you have?
Oh yeah, did you miss that whole
I
discussion,
did
Larry?
not. Yeah, so 14 hands. So, yeah, I missed, yes, I did miss a little bit of it, but I got to see his,
Yeah, the gist of the discussion was it's not that many hands. However, I did see something from a previous hand that told me that, this is like not going to be too far off from reality.
mhm.
So that was the discussion. And so I made this call and I made it pretty easily against this player, but I think the my biggest question is if I didn't have that information, is the call still gonna be okay?
Um, so this is a super strong line. He check raised. He check raised against two people. I think we can overfold and we'll get the
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I was leaning to.
this is an overfold. I think we get to overfold here on river. I would have gone all the way to river, but I would have folded river.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was at. My head was at that. I probably would fold this a lot of the times. Well, just to give you an idea of what we were dealing with.
Wow. That's funny.
What did he show? I missed it. 8-10. Wow. My God. What a freak. Nice hero. Hero.
Yeah, and I think that's again, because of what I saw earlier that made that call like I wasn't even questioning it at the time. I remember this thinking, oh, I'm calling hit to this guy, but I was like, I probably would fold this to most other people.
Yeah.
I don't hate their check raise on the flop, just to say, because they've got what, two backdoor draws, both high and low. Is it a backdoor draw high and low?
Oh,
Yeah, by here. Isn't it? Because they would, what's it, 9 and jack would make a straight, and 9 and 7 would make a straight. So if they hit one of those cards on the turn, they could continue their bluff. But after you called into a multi-way, I don't think they should continue the bluff. I can't remember what the turn was, but I don't think it was something they should continue. A 6. So yeah, no, they shouldn't continue their bluff here. I can understand maybe why they're going for it, because they've got no showdown value, but they picked up no more equity. Yeah, so they're just wild at this point. And again, this would be another tag, wouldn't it? But yeah, their initial one was nuts.
yeah.
But yeah, what are they hoping to get fold? I know they picked up equity on the river with getting a 10, but what are they hoping to get fold when you call 2? I'm guessing they're hoping you fold a queen, basically. But yeah, or you've missed the flush draw, they're hoping. But yeah, that person's wild. Don't hate their flop bluff. Don't like their turn bluff. But yeah, nice.
All right. One more here while it's up. A 6. Oh, okay. This same player. I think it might even be in the very next hand because he's
Yeah, their stack size.
Yeah.
I was curious if they were going to auto refill. I was going to ask you that question, but I thought it was irrelevant. But looks like they didn't, which also feeds into their player type,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 15 hands. So that's the very next hand. I just feel like we're just calling this. I don't think in short stack theory this might be a fold, but I'm definitely not folding it to this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody say no?
No, yeah, I call it with this. Like, obviously, the 6 is the weaker of the aces in regards, but yeah, I call it against this guy.
Yeah.
With the person out, that's reasonable. And they hit. I made a stupid call the other day against someone who was quite loose and lost it. Well, it wasn't a stupid call. It was what was it, 50 big blind. I shouldn't have called it because it was minimum raise, but they shoved on the bet. And I was betting. They shoved big blinds. I had a full stack, raise 3. They shoved 50 big blinds, but literally they're so wide range. Like, I saw them shove and they showed their cards as a bluff. Like, when they shoved it, like Jack 7 offsuit, and then a couple of hands later they did this other one as well. And I called with Jack 10 suited, and I don't think I should have. And they had Queen 7 offsuit. I lost the hand, but I just knew their range was so wide, and I was just like, I'm happy to gamble with them, which is probably the wrong mindset to have. But yeah, I would definitely call that a 6. That's a long-winded way of saying basically.
Should I give up the screen? Anybody else? Larry, you got another one?
I'm good. I don't have much time left. I gotta go in a minute. But I can make you host. Do you want to be host, dude?
Oh, if we're calling it, we're good.
Well, why don't we do this last hand? We would like to see an ace king hand, and then
Yeah,
we'll call
go
it.
for it.
Okay. All right. Let's see what happens here. All right, we had under the gun. So pretty reasonable in 30 hands. Nothing probably stuck out to me. Oh, okay. I think I know why I marked this. Because I took the unusual line of doing that.
Fair.
Against EP. I think this is low freak, but we get to do it, don't we? In
Yeah.
theory.
Yep. Well, yes, it is in the charts as calling an early position with ace king off certainly is an option. I
Yeah.
don't typically do it, and I don't know why I decided this particular time. I usually go by suits. I randomize by suits and stuff.
Mhm.
And this particular suit would tell me to raise, but I didn't.
So you don't remember why? Because I was just trying to think, is this potentially doing this because you think someone behind you might three bet and you're going for the trap? Is it you're just trying to protect your fall in range from the button with an ace king?
Yeah, 100%. Just kind of almost
Protect.
kind of just for uh, like mixing it up kind of purposes kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Like you said it, protecting your calling range on the button.
Yeah, widening you, not widening. Yeah, protecting. I think that's the right phrase, isn't it? Protecting your call in range.
And again, it's very rare that I do this. And like I said, I randomize by suit combos. In this particular suit combo, I would not do this. So I'm not sure why at the time I decided. There's nothing about these guys that tell me to do anything different or nothing about this guy. In fact, other than this would tell me to three bet more often. But
Yeah.
so we get a pretty good flop for doing our low frequency action. And he checks, which was unexpected.
Yes. I would bet a lot. Good position. I would
Yeah.
B50 or B33, B50.
I think so. I think I agree with that, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not unreasonable for them to check, out of position, even if though the king does hit them, obviously more than in theory it hits you.
True.
But I think I like the bet size because the king in theory hits them more than it hits you. They might actually call with weaker kings or, under pairs to the king, etc. Yeah, and you're not too worried about the flush draw because you've got a blocker in your hand and you have the chance to draw to the nut flush, right? The backdoor nut flush.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I like Larry's suggestion of betting half pot.
I think, and I was there, I'm with you guys. Except I went B75 just because of the hidden nature of my hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a good
Okay,
plan.
very cool. So
Um, yeah.
yeah, I think it's reasonable as well. Obviously, you're tightening their range with their calling, right? By this.
Yeah, they have a
You're,
filtered
you're
range now.
Yeah,
So
you're cutting out their weaker hands. I'm not saying your hand is quite strong and mass, as you said, but now, you are potentially folding out some of those weaker kings and keeping in, stronger hands like, I guess, two pairs, right? Who are going to be potentially trying to trap you because you bet so big.
Yeah. And I'm really not seeing a lot of that. I suppose King 9 could be there. Again, this is early position. And assuming they play like kind of good ranges, even King 9 is not raised at a full
And trips
frequency.
as well, though, would be trapping you, yeah, with your big bet. They wouldn't check raise you, right? They've seen you bet big. They
Yeah.
would be trapping you where, yeah. But I don't hate it. I'm just saying you narrowed their range, right, with the call.
Yep.
And that's a consideration. But you're charging them if they're going for the draw as well. And if they are staying in with their potentially weaker kings that they should have folded to the larger bet. But I don't think anyone ever folds it there. You call one, they shouldn't call two with a weaker king. But yeah, so I'm guessing they check and then you're deciding on, oh
Yep.
yeah, they have checked and you're deciding on your bet size now. So what's your thoughts?
So my thought, I think, was to continue to get value. And I'm pretty sure I put a big bet in here. I just don't remember how big. Let's see. I went over bet. I went B120.
Okay. What was the reason? Just purely value, or are you concerned of draws still, charging draws.
Purely value, and again, just kind of like if he has king queen, even something like
Be
king
hard to
jack
fold king
suited.
queen here, yeah, definitely. Like if we were the other way round, right? And we were the one not having an ace king and we don't know what the button has, but we have a king queen here, right? And the button's just betting in large. Yeah, I would struggle to fold. Like I would be calling with king queen here, so I think it makes sense.
And they just folded.
They
So
fold.
I don't
Yeah.
remember or know what
The
they
two
had.
large bets. Yeah, the two large bets, you're really narrowing their range, right? And tens folding here isn't unreasonable. Going smaller on pre-flop, on the flop, like, you know, potentially the half, you might get two streets of value, but you're losing. You've obviously lost some blinds from there, only calling 50 rather than 75. So you need them to at least call the difference you would lose by going smaller on the flop on the turn, if that makes sense, to make it more profitable. Oh no, equal / more profitable. 7-8 drawers, yeah. I like it. I don't think you've lost too much value against this particular hand.
I think this hand definitely qualifies as an overbet, especially
yeah.
I mean, we've seen in theory that when we get this double flush draw board, we do get to size up. So I like your play.
But when you're holding like the nut flush blocker, right, which is reducing their range,
That's true.
you know, do you still size up as much?
I think that's a good point. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not
good,
sure. I'm not
good-
sure if we still.
good
I don't know
question.
if
this-
that affects.
this
If we
might
have
actually-
ace of hearts, king of diamonds, this makes more sense.
Yeah, this might be good to just put in, you know, the why am I losing my words? The solver. I don't know why I was struggling to come up with that. I think it is the solver would be able to do this, right? This doesn't break the solver in any shape or form because ace king is in calling range on the button right in this situation. Offsuit.
Yeah,
Is it worth doing quickly?
yeah.
Let's see what it favors. I think, right, it's negligible. You know, you might get slightly more value by doing a smaller bet on the flop and then get a few more big blinds on the turn with another bet that they call. But you're potentially opening yourself to.
It actually is pretty significant calling in theory.
Nice.
I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah, it's basically 50-50, right? As you said. So you just find something, yeah. Okay, so you call.
And we had
This one's
king
quite
nine
interesting.
clubs,
I like
bluff
this.
eight. I'm thinking that we get to bluff, like Dean is saying, there's a lot of like we can overbet, or I don't know if overbets are what we do, but bluffing like even like low pairs that we call when we're on the button. But anyway, yeah, so this is why I think I was surprised to see him check because it should be bet pretty heavily, but 70% ish, 75%. And when they check, oh, we get to go big right on the flop with a lot of our range, not necessarily ace king, interestingly.
Yeah, it does. Wow. Yeah, it really likes. It doesn't like the 50% or 33% at all. So it is pretty much 75% or 125 if you're betting. So in theory, you bet too small, right? In theory. But yeah, it's yeah, fair enough. Nice, makes sense.
Interesting.
So with the ace king, is it like obviously range wise, you're betting big, but with ace king, what is it doing? Out of curiosity, it's mainly I can't quite see on my
Oh,
screen.
you can. It's mostly checking. Like it looks to be checking 80% of the time, with a slight favor to non-club ace. In other words, check more often with the ace of clubs.
Yeah,
Which I
which
would have
makes
also
sense.
thought would have been reversed. And they start getting indifferent with their under pairs that don't have a club. In fact, they should be folding tens without a club. Jacks without a club or like whatever. Queens are indifferent. They call, and we got the 6 of spades, I think it was. They check range. And now it's all over bets.
Yeah, it makes sense. When you're doing a large bet on the flop to continue the betting in that style and keeping in what hopefully you're beating and charging the draws. I was just curious if it was ever the smaller bet on it, but the smaller bet's the worst decision, right? It's check or bet big, which is good to know.
And here's where I was kind of curious about like these hands, these low pairs that we would call, like a lot of people are calling this stuff down here
Yeah.
on the button. And so when they check that flop, which they should be betting a ton, we kind of get to go ham, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I guess your bets are protecting your large bets are protecting the lower part of your range, right? That is just trying to take the pot off someone who's been a bit more, I guess, passive. So your ace king betting big here is going for value, but also to protect the lower part of the range that is now trying to steal with off a weaker king or whatever that's checking back, as well as potentially go for small value on their middling pair.
Okay. All right.
I find that's quite an interesting hand. I quite like that one, to be fair. I think I learned a bit from that.
And of course, I would assume their 10s should just, yeah, I mean, they're everything except for queens with a club. Well, queens with a club and a spade, which, yeah, okay. It puts a lot of pressure on them.
All right, guys, should we call it?
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Same time,
Yeah, it was
same
great.
bat station.
Nice hand to end on.
Yeah, good one.
Thanks, fellas.
Cool.